The survival advantage provided by medical communication became dramatically apparent during colonial encounters. European colonizers who dismissed indigenous medical knowledge often suffered terribly in unfamiliar environments. Captain James Cook's expeditions maintained remarkably low mortality rates partly because his crew adopted anti-scorbutic practices learned from Pacific Islander medical traditions. Sailors who consumed vitamin C-rich foods, as advised by indigenous healers, avoided the agonizing deaths from scurvy that had claimed countless other European sailors. What emerges from this historical pattern is clear. Written medical knowledge saved more lives than any specific medicine for most of human history. While individual treatments might have limited efficacy, the systematic preservation and dissemination of medical observations created a cumulative knowledge base that transformed lethal pandemics into survivable challenges. Communication networks turned isolated tragedies into opportunities for collective learning, allowing each devastating outbreak to inform responses preserved life-saving protocols through generations. Another form of writing was quietly reshaping humanity's survival prospects. Those simple marks on clay tablets about grain storage and water distribution accomplished something that weapons, discoveries, and even medicine couldn't. They broke the cycle of population collapse that had kept humanity in check for millennia. For roughly 5,000 years after the agricultural revolution, human population grew at a painfully slow rate. Archaeological evidence from sites across Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China reveals a striking pattern. Settlements would grow, sometimes flourishing for generations, before suddenly collapsing. This boom-and-bust cycle kept humanity's total numbers remarkably stable despite our technological innovations. A settlement might thrive for decades only to vanish entirely, leaving behind skeletal remains showing signs of malnutrition and violence. What changed around 3000 BCE wasn't our biology or even our basic technologies. It was our information management capability. In multiple regions across the globe, humans developed systems to record quantities, transactions, and obligations. The timing emerged as human settlements reached critical complexity thresholds where memory alone could no longer track essential resources, like an ancient version of today's data storage systems when information overload occurs. The Uruk tablets from ancient Mesopotamia tell a revealing story. Dating to approximately 3300 BCE, these earliest writing specimens record mundane details: 29 jars of oil, 126 sheep, and 412 measures of barley. Similar utilitarian records appear in early Chinese oracle bones and Egyptian hieroglyphs. While we romanticize writing as a tool for creativity, its original purpose was far more practical, an administrative technology for tracking resources. This seemingly boring innovation transformed human existence. Before writing, even sophisticated pre-literate societies faced fundamental constraints on size and stability. Cognitive anthropologists have established that human memory, even enhanced by oral traditions, cannot reliably track resources beyond certain thresholds. The archaeological evidence from Catalhoyuk in Turkey illustrates this limitation perfectly. This impressive pre-literate settlement reached approximately 10,000 inhabitants around 7000 BCE, but showed cyclical patterns of growth and collapse due to systematic food mismanagement. Not from lack of farming skill, but from inability to coordinate at scale without written records. Writing systems solved this crucial problem by creating resource visibility, much like modern inventory systems providing real-time stock levels. The clay tablets from Mesopotamian cities show sophisticated inventory management stretching across seasons, with calculations accounting for seed requirements, anticipated harvests, and population needs. When disaster struck, these societies had precise information about their reserves and could implement rationing with mathematical precision. The impact on human welfare was immediate. Excavations at Tel Brak in Syria revealed how writing coincided with dramatic decreases in nutritional stress. Human remains from pre-writing layers show significantly higher rates of stress markers in bones compared to post-writing layers, despite facing similar environmental challenges. The difference wasn't more abundant harvests, it was better management of existing resources. This pattern appears consistently across distant civilizations. Egypt's population stabilized remarkably after developing hieroglyphics around 3100 BCE. Precise Nile flood measurements recorded annually on the Palermo stone allowed administrators to predict food production and allocate resources accordingly. Similarly, early Chinese writing emerged alongside population centers that maintained stability through climate events that had previously triggered settlements to collapse. Writing enabled complex contractual arrangements that reduced resource conflicts. The Code of Uar-Nammu, inscribed around 2100 BCE, standardized weights, measures, and property boundaries, reducing disputes that frequently led to violence in pre-literate societies. Archaeological records show significant decreases in skeletal trauma from interpersonal violence following written legal codes. Additionally, writing created institutional memory transcending individual lifespans. The Nippur Temple archives contained agricultural records spanning centuries, allowing administrators to recognize climate patterns and adapt accordingly. This long-term perspective prevented the knowledge loss that previously accompanied generational transitions. The demographic impact was profound. Models based on archaeological evidence suggest human population remained below 20 million for thousands of years before writing. Within just 2,000 years after writing emerged, that number quadrupled. This wasn't simply due to agricultural improvements. Many key farming innovations predated writing by millennia without triggering comparable growth. Perhaps most telling is how quickly writing spread when introduced to new regions, suggesting its immediate survival value was recognized. When Minoan linear, a script reached mainland Greece, evidence shows rapid adoption specifically for resource management before cultural applications appeared. The relationship becomes even clearer when examining societies that lost writing. When the Mycenaean Linear B script disappeared during the Greek Dark Ages around 1100 BCE, archaeological evidence shows immediate population decline and settlement abandonment. Similar patterns occurred with Mayan writing collapse. During the severe drought striking North Africa around 2200 BCE, neighboring non-literate societies experienced near-complete collapse. In contrast, Egyptian society, despite serious strain, maintained continuity through this crisis. Their administrative papyri show systematic reallocation of resources, tax adjustments, and coordinated labor movements, all made possible by written records providing complete resource visibility. This pattern repeated across centuries and continents. Societies with writing systems consistently showed greater resilience to environmental challenges than their non-literate counterparts. The ancestral Puebloan civilization in North America, lacking writing, abandoned massive settlements during extended droughts, while Chinese dynasties with sophisticated record-keeping survived comparable climate events through complex resource redistribution systems documented in their administrative archives. Knowledge across generations. Yet writing constituted only half the solution to humanity's vulnerability. Across the vast majority of human societies throughout history, not a single written record ever existed. These cultures still managed to preserve crucial information for centuries, often with remarkable precision that rivaled or exceeded written documentation. Consider what happens to knowledge when it lives exclusively in human minds. Each time an elder dies, their lifetime of accumulated wisdom potentially vanishes. This created a fundamental vulnerability for our species, one that could have repeatedly sent communities back to square one after each generation. Without methods to transmit accumulated knowledge, every human group would be forced to rediscover which mushrooms were poisonous, which weather patterns signaled danger, and which conflict resolution strategies prevented warfare. Anthropologists studying knowledge transmission have discovered that non-literate societies developed sophisticated memory systems. The Australian Aboriginal songlines encode precise geographic information about water sources, seasonal food availability, and terrain features across thousands of square miles. These songlines maintain accuracy over thousands of years, with researchers confirming landscape features described in songs that match geological changes occurring over 10,000 years ago. The reliability of these memory systems is remarkable. The Polynesian voyagers navigated the vast Pacific Ocean using star maps, current patterns, and bird migration routes memorized through specialized chants. When modern researchers tested these navigation methods against GPS, they found the traditional techniques accurate to within a few miles, even after crossing thousands of miles of open ocean. Epic poems served as cultural encyclopedias. The Iliad and Odyssey contain navigational instructions for Mediterranean seafaring, diplomatic protocols for interactions between city-states, and detailed descriptions of wound treatment. Analysis of Homeric texts reveals that geographical descriptions match actual Mediterranean coastal features with remarkable precision, essentially functioning as oral maps memorized by generations of poets. These were highly structured memory systems with built-in error correction. The Vedic texts of ancient India maintained perfect transmission accuracy through elaborate recitation techniques. Vedic priests learned to recite texts forward, backward, and in various patterns that mathematically verified content integrity. When scholars compared Vedic texts memorized by geographically separated communities that had no contact for over 1,000 years, they found virtually identical versions, a level of precision that rivals modern digital error correction. Like a modern data center with multiple backup systems, ancient cultures developed redundancy through rhythmic patterns, rhymes, and melodies. The West African griots memorized genealogies stretching back dozens of generations, preserving not just names but property rights, marriage alliances, and conflict resolutions critical for community stability. When colonial records later verified these oral histories, they confirmed their historical accuracy spanning hundreds of years. These systems preserved highly technical information. The Calauea healers of Bolivia maintained an oral pharmacopoeia of over 900 medicinal plants, including precise dosages and preparation methods. Recent pharmacological analysis has verified the efficacy of these traditional remedies, many containing active compounds that modern medicine has only recently identified. The cost of losing these knowledge systems proved catastrophic for many societies. When European colonization disrupted traditional knowledge transmission among indigenous Arctic peoples, communities lost critical information about weather prediction, ice safety, and navigation. This knowledge gap directly contributed to increased mortality rates from environmental accidents. Similar patterns appeared in Australian Aboriginal communities where disrupted initiation ceremonies broke the chain of ecological knowledge, leading to resource management failures. The Rapa Nui of Easter Island present another cautionary example. Archaeological evidence suggests that internal conflict disrupted their knowledge transmission systems, particularly regarding sustainable resource management. The resulting ecological collapse demonstrates how quickly a society can unravel when its collective memory fails. Interestingly, many written civilizations recognized the vulnerabilities of relying solely on documents and maintained parallel oral traditions. Ancient Egyptian scribes continued memorizing texts even after writing them down, a practice that proved prescient when the Library of Alexandria burned. Similarly, Buddhist monasteries in Tibet transcribed texts but continued their memorization traditions, which preserved countless works when monasteries were destroyed during the Cultural Revolution. Some knowledge systems combined oral and tangible elements. The Inca quipu, knotted cord devices, served as memory aids for trained specialists who could read demographic data, tax records, and historical narratives from the patterns. This hybrid system allowed for both physical records and the flexibility of oral interpretation. When Spanish conquistadors destroyed the quipus, they effectively erased centuries of accumulated knowledge. The effectiveness of these memory systems offers insights into human cognitive potential. Cognitive scientists studying contemporary memory champions have documented similar techniques to those used by indigenous knowledge keepers. These aren't mystical abilities but systematic methods for optimizing human memory, techniques largely abandoned in societies that outsourced memory to external storage. Today, as we face unprecedented global challenges like climate change and pandemic preparation, these ancient memory systems offer valuable lessons. They demonstrate that resilient knowledge systems require redundancy, multiple storage methods, and transmission channels. They also show that embedding critical information in emotional, narrative, or artistic forms significantly enhances its memorability and cultural persistence. modern disaster preparation experts have begun incorporating these insights, developing memorable guidelines for emergency response that use rhythm, narrative, and visual association. Similarly, nuclear waste storage facilities face the challenge of warning future civilizations thousands of years hence, a problem strikingly similar to that solved by ancient memory keepers. Current proposals include creating nuclear priesthoods to maintain warning knowledge through ritualized transmission, essentially reinventing the same solutions our ancestors developed. These ancient memory systems remind us that human cognitive abilities exceed what most modern people utilize. The average memory palace practitioner today can memorize thousands of random digits in order, a feat that was once commonplace among knowledge keepers in non-literate societies.